During my study period, I knew that every single day mattered if I wanted to get those dream grades, the best grades possible in my exam. And so that meant for me to create a routine that could help me retain information, stay focused, and avoid burnout. To pace myself through the 6 to 8 weeks where I had about 20-25 exams in my GCSEs. And guess what? This routine works incredibly for me. So in this video today, I'll be sharing with you the exact routine that I have been using that has guaranteed my grades. So getting 12 nines in my GCSEs and hopefully 4 stars in my A-levels. So this routine is specifically for the days where you don't have exams. You could probably apply it to the days when you do by making small adjustments. But for now, just focus on the full day of study leave that you do get when you don't have an exam in the morning or afternoon. My routine in a very plain form looks like this. I've got a morning routine when I wake up, and I start working at 6:30 to about 10. From 11 to about 1, I'm exercising. I start working again at 2, and if I need to, I'll go on until 5. And if I really need to do some extra work in the evening, I would take a rest between 5 and 7 and do an hour from 7 to 8. Because my exams are my main priority, I'll put them first over anything else. Some people may not be particularly happy about doing work first thing in the morning, but that's probably the most vital thing for me as opposed to anything else, whether that's the exercise or the rest. So why does studying in the mornings actually work? I firmly believe that if you work in the morning and you put your main focus on that work, your focus won't be diverted to anything else. Whereas if you do other things in the morning, you go on your phone, you go do exercise, and then you work, you have already used quite a lot of your day's energy already. If I could physically do it, I would work for maybe 4 or 5 hours in a row. But because I'm simply not built like that, I can do 2, 3, probably even maximum 4 in one sitting. That I would do that work, take a break, go do exercise, come back and finish off the work that I need to do. But the thing is, the main bulk of my work is done pretty much as soon as I wake up. The morning routine that I do have, which lasts for about 5 to 10 minutes, really isn't long. And I wake up at 6, I do that routine, probably by 6:20, 6:30, I'm at my desk work. That means I can put a lot of my focus for the day and a lot of my energy for the day onto that work as opposed to anything else. And because your exams, and we've already agreed that they are your main priority at the moment, you obviously would want to put the most energy and focus I do have onto those exams so you can get those grades. So yeah, we've already gone through the reasons why I study first thing in the morning. And this doesn't even mean that you have to wake up at a specific time. Wake up at your normal time, then start working maybe within the first half an hour of waking up. That means you will see the biggest benefits in your productivity and how much output you produce in that time than you've ever seen before. But one thing I skipped over slightly was a bit of a morning routine. It doesn't really matter what you do in that routine. All that matters is that you have something that you do consistently every single day. The two things that I do every day are meditate and gratitude journal, but these aren't prescriptive. But what is quite important is that you do something as soon as you wake up. It could be as small as just switching on your bedside lamp, or you clean your room, or you organize what you're going to do for the day. So long as you do something consistently every single day as soon as you wake up, that means you're already in that mindset of, oh, I'm going to do this small routine first and then I'm going to start working. It doesn't have to be 2-3 hours long. If anything, it shouldn't even be 20 to 30 minutes. You should be doing a small thing to prepare you for your work. And so by now we've covered the small routine and why you should be working first thing in the morning. But how do you know when to stop that morning session of work? I already said that I can't really work for more than 3 hours. Maybe because of my attention span, or maybe because it genuinely is tiring to study. But there are two ways of deciding when to stop. It's either once you've completed a task or certain task, or when it just feels like I've done enough work for now and I can do the rest later. The first one for me isn't something that I ever really use, because I feel like the tasks that I do have to do for my A-level subject aren't really very condensable into small things. It's more that, oh, I need to cover all of this content, or that I need to do some successive past papers back to back. They're not really small 30-minute tasks or 45-minute tasks that I can put and stack on top of each other. Instead, they may take 2 hours within themselves, or maybe 3 hours. And that means specifically for me that I find just stopping when I feel like I've done enough for now is a very good idea. For you, it may be completely different. You may be coping to yourself or not being particularly honest when you say, "Oh, I don't feel like doing more." When I feel like I don't want to do any more, it's because I know for work, if I do and if I continued, wouldn't be to a very good quality at all. Because my focus and my energy levels would have dropped significantly, given that I've been working for maybe 2.5 hours already. After that, I go and eat, usually quite a dense meal, because I know after I eat, I'll be going in weightlifting. But for you, it may not be that. You may want to go for a run, go for a walk, or do some sort of healthy activity to almost just boost your dopamine a little bit. It could be scrolling on your phone. I know it's not particularly healthy, but it does take your mind away from your work. I've been doing it a little bit recently. I'm not particularly proud of it, but I do find that when I do use my phone, social media, that if I use it for too long, of course, it will damage my attention span. But for maybe about half an hour, if I've got a bit of time, or maybe 10, 20 minutes, probably not even 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, if I want to go on my phone and respond to messages and stuff, that's quite good for you. Just as a side note, I don't feel like all these high dopamine activities like scrolling or junk food or video games, I don't think they're particularly bad in a one-off instance, but I do feel like it starts to become a problem when you're using them consistently and for long periods of time. I do these things occasionally, not every day, probably maybe once or twice a week. I know people who do them every single day. So they're on their phone constantly, or they're eating junk food and playing video games a lot. That's when it starts to damage the quality of your work. It may not be direct and obvious and instant, but over time you start to realize that your attention span starts to drop, or you just don't feel the same motivation that you do have to go and do your work. That's why healthy activity is really important after you study. You do your hard task first thing in the morning, you eat something, and then you go for a run, or go for a walk, or go and weightlift, or go speak to your friends. Do something which is actually good for you, as opposed to just consuming content or poor food, just high level dopamine thing. For me personally, I feel like exercise will always be that thing in that slot between maybe 11 and 1, maybe even 2. But for you, maybe completely different. Find the healthy activity that does work for you to take a good break from your studying. And that could even be socializing, which is why I enjoy doing my exercise at my local place a lot more than in a new or better gym, for example. From there, I go on to my second block of work. My first block of work is something that I would consider deep work. So very high level focus and high level output that comes from the work that I've done. My second block of work is going to be a bit more shallow in terms of its quality and quantity. The reason why is because in your exercise or that healthy activity and in that work this morning, you've used quite a significant amount of energy and a lot of brain power to get through those things. So it's understandable if you feel a bit more tired or a bit more drowsy. Sometimes I even have that feeling where I don't really have the capacity to go and do that second block of work. But that second work block is still very important. The reason why is because it's finishing off the work that I need to do for the day. I aim to do all my work for my day by 5 p.m. in the evening, so that I've got my evening free to do whatever I want. As I said, the difference between your first block of work and your second block of work is the amount of focus and output that you will produce. So your first block is undistracted, very focused. You put your hardest task in the day, but your second block of work will probably have an easier task. So at the moment, I am revising for a maths exam. I know for a fact that the hardest task that I need to do is to get the content nailed down. Because once I have that, and because I'm used to doing past papers, I will be able to do the past papers quite easily and very well after I know the content properly. So what do I do? How do I organize my work? I put my content in my morning block, then I put the past papers in my afternoon block. That's quite common sense and it's very intuitive. One thing that I just thought of, and this could help some people, is that you should proportion your work to the amount of energy that you have. You've got a lot of energy in the morning, you do your harder task then. You've got less energy in the afternoon, you do an easier task then. Maybe creating this into a principle will help some people, but on just a very basic level, do harder things in the morning and do easier things in the afternoon when you don't have as much energy as you did in the morning. So for me, on most days, that should be all of my work done. I work from about 6:30 to about 10, and from 2 to 4:30, maybe even 5. So that's about 6 hours. Not all of our work is studying. For example, right now I'm using my afternoon work block to record this video. It's currently 3:35. So I'm using this afternoon block to do a probably an easier task, one that doesn't require as much focus, but it's still very important and something I should focus on. And yeah, by 5 p.m., most of my work on weekends and the days that I don't have exams, most of my work would be complete. And I've got about 5 to 9, 10, rarely 11 to do whatever I want, whether that's watching football, going out, socializing, going for a walk, reading, whatever I want to do, whatever you want to do on top. Some people consider working like this to be a very big sacrifice of your social life, of your exercise. But I feel like I found a way to, yes, delay those things, but do them in such a way where I'm putting my work first and I'm not, in fact, neglecting any of it. People often think because I get the grades that I don't do anything else. I do work for a good amount of time every day, but I'm not denying that. But I can still do the things that I really enjoy on top of that. It took me a couple months to get into this properly, but once I did, I have genuinely never even looked back. I keep adapting this routine to fit my needs at any current time. But how should you go ahead and adapt to any changes that do happen in your life? A big one for me was moving from GCSE to A level. In my GCSEs, I had less work to do, like comparatively. I know I had more subjects, but A levels are a whole different story with the amount of work I do need to do. I adapted that by putting more work in the morning. Because when I had my GCSEs, I would always wake up at 5:30, so earlier, start working at 6, stop working at about 8:30, and go to the gym at 9 o'clock. But I realize now that I need to spend more energy and I will have more energy for my work later on if I delay all of that stuff. So if I wake up a bit later, so I'm sleeping better, and I'm doing more work in the morning, and then I go and exercise, the work I have in the afternoon will be better than if I did exercise from 9 to 12, for example, solely because I would have had more energy to go and do that work properly. On the rare occasions where I don't finish my work in the afternoon, I do both work between 7 and 9. That's rare because normally my work would have been completed, but it does happen from time to time when I do have a lot of uni prep, then a lot of homework, then a lot of revision to do all in one day if I haven't been organised my time properly in the week before. But anyway, that routine is the one that has guaranteed my grades over the past few years. I got 12 9s in my GCSEs, I got 3 A's in my AS last year in year 12, and I'm predicted to get 4 A stars in my A level. So it's something that has produced noticeable results, if I do say so myself. So yeah, if you do find videos like these helpful, please do subscribe, and I've got Discord down below in my description. But before then, I'll see you in the next video.